Hey, the year is nearing the end, and I finally finished designing the areas. Let me show you my latest creation, the Crypt. As always, the area starts with the name. For the Crypt, I pick a random male name and a random noble surname, add some descriptor, and pick one of the possible nouns like mausoleum, grave, or sepulchre. That's how I name most of the areas, but this time it's more important. You will soon see why. The Crypt has its own theme, different from other dungeons, so I had to use a lot of new assets. Starting with the rose bushes that can of course be harvested and also hurt you if you touch them. Then there are barrel leaves, purely decorative. Underground we see alcoves with remains of the dead and possibly some small treasures, and barrel urns with similar contents. The previous video is all about me working on those urns. Then there are also occasional sarcophagi. The set of challenges is different from other dungeons, though not that unique, at least on the first floor. There are phantasms, like those in the woods, magic mirrors that summon shades, and all kinds of trapped and blocked doors. But assuming you read the title, you know that it's all about what waits at the end. Did you hear that? Yeah, that's him. The noble that was buried here and raised himself from the dead, using black magic. Essentially, a Lich. When I first found this cartoon villain Laughter, I was torn by conflicting feelings. A part of me was screaming, that's so silly, there's no way this should be in the game. Another part of me was like, yeah, but I guess it fits the half-insane undead nobleman. And the third part of me was just cracking up, that's so silly, that's me material right there, there's no way this should not be in the game. So this Laughter stays, I regret nothing. The Lich himself is unique in many ways beside Laughter. Most importantly, he's immortal. You literally cannot do any damage to him normally. See, I've always thought that it's boring how undead is reduced to fodder enemies in most of the games. You've probably seen Pirates of the Caribbean, so if you want to know my idea of what undead should be like, just think of the cursed crew of the Black Pearl. Absolutely terrifying, almost impossible to fight back, and shrouded in mystery. That's what a spooky skeleton would be for a naive medieval person. So, I've tried to make my undead like that. The only way to kill the Lich is to find and destroy his phylactery, this crystal bird. Even though it's a pretty common trope, I don't expect that everyone would know it, so we can learn how it works from an old diary hidden in one of the sarcophagi on the level above. Once you destroy the bird, the Lich dies immediately. The challenge, aside from figuring it out, would of course be finding it and getting there, which is not at all trivial because of the Lich's other unique aspect. Unless the Lich knows where the player is and is actively hunting them, he often teleports randomly around the level, so you are highly likely to stumble upon him during your exploration. That's unlike other bosses, that mostly mind their own business and will only wander so far away from their starting positions. When in combat, Lich casts various spells, either summoning shadows next to himself or next to you, and cursing you to take more damage from them. If you just try to run, let alone fight, you will be overwhelmed quickly. The most reasonable course of action for you would be to slow or disable the Lich and keep moving. A Course Light potion would be ideal, as it both slows down the boss and destroys the shadows with bright light. The Lich is also the first creature that you can fight who's also sentient. So he will be yelling at you during combat, commanding you to go away and threatening to do terrible things if you don't. And laughing like a Disney villain, of course. Also, if you look at message log, you'll see that he's named. The name is different for every new crypt, because it's a different person. And of course, the name correlates with the name of the area, which is why I told you it's important. I think it turned out to be a pretty interesting boss, though I will definitely need to see how others react to him. I would also really like to see the face of someone who's just exploring the dungeon and hears this. Aside from my work on the crypt, I've changed the entrance to the ruined mansion, since it was the same as the ruined fortress, and that was pretty lame. So there it is now, an appropriately sized mansion, also with some rose bushes. I took some time to add sounds for certain interactions. Plants, sucks, chains. Always felt like those were missing, especially for the plants. I would love to say that it's all, but there's been an event that made me lose my sleep for several days. I received a bug report that stated that upon loading the world map, the game screen froze, but the game kept running normally. The sounds were playing, and quitting and reloading showed that the events have indeed been happening in the game. The things seemed to only happen on very specific hardware, and I was able to neither find out the cause nor reproduce it. However, through pure guesswork and with the help from the person who wrote the report, I've learned that disabling the shader that textures and colors the map fixes the issue for some reason. The exact cause will forever be a mystery, I think, as the shader is extremely simplistic. But from now on, there is a troubleshooting tab in the menu, with an option to disable this shader for those who encounter this inexplicable problem. And my sleep is no longer under threat. And since I was messing with the options menu anyway, I've also added the brightness setting. It's a flat adjustment to the ambient lighting, and it never gets the lighting above 1 or below 0, so it will only have an effect if it's not already fully lit. Essentially, reducing the difference in brightness to make the game easier on the eyes. And that's it for now. I can finally start working on the last major feature before the next release. It's exciting, but it's also probably going to be the most complex part of my work, so wish me luck. And if you're interested in further updates, you can subscribe here or on my Twitter. Also, you don't have to wait for the next release if you want to try the game, as the previous version is available on each. See you!